The waves of the Grand Line were a painter's palette of vibrant blues and foaming whites as the Griffon, a small, two-masted ship, cut through the water. Its hull, pocked and scarred from countless misadventures, was a testament to the crew's reckless spirit. At the bow stood the captain, a wiry young man named Cale, with a grin that was as much a part of his face as his sharp nose. He wore a simple, faded blue jacket that had been patched in half a dozen places, and a strange pair of cracked goggles sat on his forehead, a forgotten relic from an earlier, muddier life. The air, thick with the salty tang of the sea, held the promise of a new adventure. "Lyra, are we there yet?" he called back, his voice thick with the impatience of a man who had eaten the Doro Doro no Me, the mud fruit, which turned him into living mud. Lyra, the crew's navigator, sighed from her perch at the helm, a compass spinning wildly in her hand like a dervish. "For the 10th time, Cale, yes. The log pose is locked onto Veridia. We should see the landmass any minute now." Lyra was a quiet but sharp-eyed woman, her hand resting on the hilt of a thin-bladed rapier, a contrast to her calm demeanor. Veridia. The legend said it was an island that constantly sank and rose from the sea, a cyclical dance powered by a fabled artifact, the Sunken Bell, which promised eternal good fortune to its wielder. Cale's crew, the Mud Pirates, was far from famous. Their ranks consisted only of him, Lyra, and their cook, a gentle giant named Bolo, whose broad shoulders could lift a mast with one hand and whose soft hands could bake a cake with the other. As if on cue, a dark, emerald-green mass appeared on the horizon, swelling into a towering, jungle-covered island. The air grew thick and humid, heavy with the scent of damp earth and exotic, unseen flowers. It felt less like a natural place and more like a living, breathing entity, a giant creature slumbering in the sea. "There it is," Cale yelled, his grin stretching wider. "The island of Veridia. Soon, the Sunken Bell's promise will be ours. Think of all the treasure we can get with eternal good fortune." Bolo, his apron splattered with flour, emerged from the galley, his large brow furrowed. "Captain, I'm getting a strange feeling. The earth. It feels angry." He placed a massive hand on the deck, feeling a faint, unsettling vibration resonate through the ship's hull. Cale laughed it off, slapping his friend on the back. "Don't be silly, Bolo. It's just a jungle. Nothing a little mud can't handle." He was wrong. As they navigated through the dense mangrove coast, the jungle itself seemed to come alive. Vines snapped at the ship like hungry whips, and trees shifted and groaned unnaturally. The rustling in the undergrowth sounded more like 1,000 whispers than the wind. Suddenly, a hulking, moss and vine-covered beast with glowing red eyes burst from the foliage, its roar shaking the Griffon to its very core. Its body was a chaotic mess of gnarled branches and thick vines, held together by a pulsing, crimson core at its chest. "This isn't normal," Lyra said, her hand on her rapier, her eyes scanning for a weakness. "This island is actively fighting us." Cale's body dissolved into a puddle of viscous, brown mud. He flowed onto the deck, reforming just in time to shout, "Bolo, get ready!" The massive cook swung a massive iron ladle like a club, its metallic clang echoing as it sent the creature stumbling back. Cale, meanwhile, shot a jet of mud at the beast's legs, mirroring it in place with a sound like a great, sucking breath. "Doro, Doro!" Mud cannon. He yelled, and a compacted cannonball of mud blasted the creature's chest, leaving a large crater of barren, lifeless rock. The beast roared in pain and retreated back into the foliage, its red eyes glowing menacingly from the shadows. "That was rough," Bolo grumbled, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow. It felt like the island itself was its body. "More than rough," Lyra said, her eyes narrowed. "Someone is manipulating this island. This isn't a natural defense." They found a small, hidden cove and anchored the ship. Cale, eager to find the bell, plunged into the jungle, followed by Lyra and Bolo. They trekked for hours, the flora growing more aggressive with every step. Lyra, using her knowledge of the sea currents, theorized that the island was being pushed down by an unknown force. The vibration Bolo had felt was the entire island slowly sinking, being dragged down into the sea. They eventually stumbled upon an ancient, moss-covered archway, its carvings worn away by time and decay. It was a doorway to a sunken city. The ground beneath them was no longer solid earth, but the rooftops of a forgotten civilization, half submerged in the jungle. Below their feet, a vast, silent city of stone was slowly being swallowed by the island itself, its once grand streets now choked with roots and vines. In the center of the ruins, a large, bronze bell sat atop a raised platform. It wasn't sparkling with light or magic, but it pulsed with a faint, malevolent green energy that flowed into the very ground, causing the plants to grow at an unnatural, violent rate. And standing before it was a man in a pristine marine uniform, his face a grim mask of determination. He was flanked by two other Marines, their stances rigid, their hands on their holstered pistols. "Well, well," the Marine said, his voice cold and hard as steel. "The Mud Pirates. I've heard rumors of a devil fruit user causing trouble in the West Blue. I didn't expect you to be so foolish as to find this place." "Who are you?" Cale demanded, his body already liquefying in preparation for a fight. "Lieutenant Commander Hayes," he said, and with a flash of light, his sword was drawn. "And I've come to secure this artifact for the world government. It's a miracle it hasn't fallen into the hands of a scoundrel like you." Lyra stepped forward, her hand on her rapier. "That bell isn't what you think it is. It's not a weapon. It's the heart of this island." Hayes laughed, a humorless sound that scraped against the humid air. "Foolish pirate. This bell is a priceless historical relic. It promises power to whoever can master it. With it, the world government can control entire civilizations." "No," Cale said, his voice low. "That's not it. Look at the plants. Look at the city. This bell isn't a treasure. It's an energy amplifier. Someone is using it to sink this island." The fight began. Bolo, with his immense strength, easily dispatched the two lesser Marines with a single, thunderous blow from his ladle. Cale, however, found himself up against Hayes, a master of Rokushiki and a formidable haki user. Hayes's attacks were precise and powerful, and Cale's mud body struggled to contain the blows. "Your devil fruit is useless against me," Hayes sneered, coating his fist in Busashoku haki. The black, hardened knuckles of his hand slammed into Cale, and for a painful moment, he felt a solid, physical impact. "I'll make sure you go down with this island." Cale took a punishing blow to the chest, his body reforming with a gasp. But then, an idea sparked in his mind. He wasn't a powerhouse like Luffy or a master swordsman like Zoro. He was just a boy who could turn into mud, and mud could be anything. Hayes charged, ready to land a final blow. Cale dropped to the ground, dissolving into a massive puddle of thick, sucking mud. Hayes's foot sank into the muck, his haki-coated boot unable to find purchase. "What is this?" he grunted, struggling to pull free. Cale's mud body swirled around him, climbing up his legs and arms, covering his face and filling his mouth. "You can't get away from me," Cale said from within the mud. "I am the earth here. I am Viridia." He pushed with all his might, and the mud solidified, forming a heavy, crushing rock that pinned Hayes to the ground. Hayes, unable to move, was completely immobilized, his face a grimace of shock and frustration. "The power of the bell isn't about fortune," Cale said, his voice echoing from the mud. "It's about the will of the person who uses it. It amplifies your desire. You wanted to control this island, and in doing so, you're destroying it. You're sinking it just like you sank this city." With a final push, Cale dislodged a massive, ancient stone from the bell's base. The green light pulsing from the bell dimmed, and the flow of energy stopped. The air grew still. The aggressive flora of the jungle softened, and the land stopped rumbling. Hayes, now able to breathe, looked around, his face pale. The island was no longer trying to sink. The very ground had become still. Lyra and Bolo came to stand beside Cale, who was now reforming into his normal self, covered in mud. "What did you do?" Bolo asked. "I didn't destroy it," Cale said, wiping the mud from his eyes. "I just disconnected it. The bell isn't a weapon, it's a tool, it's the heart of the island, and its promise isn't good fortune. It's to be what you believe it to be, a treasure for the greedy, a curse for the wicked, and a life for the humble." They left the bell there, a secret known only to them. As they sailed away, Kale looked back at the island of Viridia. The jungle was still, calm, and serene. It was no longer fighting. It was alive, and Kale, grinning with satisfaction, knew that some treasures weren't meant to be taken. They were meant to be protected. The Griffon sailed on. The sunken bells promise a secret safe in the hands of the mud pirates, and another adventure behind them.